Welcome back to Real Talk. Happy New Year 2015. Great to have your company. We're moving away from events in Paris and UKIP. We are talking about the NHS because hospital waiting times have dropped to their worst level for years, and 8 hospital trusts in the UK have said that they're at breaking point at the state of emergency, not being able to deal with people in A&E. When's the last time you made a doctor's appointment and saw him or her the next day? And what about out of hours? You can never get a doctor. What's going on with our public services, the NHS, and indeed the rail companies? Train fares have hiked up. What is going on with the public services? Our Real Talk panel today, we've got Winston, McKenzie, UKIP Commonwealth spokesperson, Ava Vidal, who is a comedian and writer as well, and Bob Gill, a GP and a member of the NHA party, the National Health Action Party. I'll have to start with you then. As a GP, what's going on? You guys, seem to get, we hear that you get paid loads, you've got a good job. What's going on?
I used to have a very good job, but I've been qualified for 20 years, and it's about the same sort of time as there's been this agenda to privatise the NHS. Now, it's very hard to privatise a service that is functioning well, so you have to undermine it. And that's what this government has been doing since they got elected in 2010.
But is it just a problem, though, Bob, that we've just had a spike with the flu, and that's why the A&E departments are overloaded? There's been an awful epidemic. Is it just a little blip?
It's not a blip, because if you look at the figures and you study A&E attendances in June of this year and compare them to this time of year, there's not that much difference. But what has happened, there's been further contraction in provision. A&E departments have shut, beds have closed. The biggest problem that my colleagues who I speak to in A&E tell me is they can't get people out of A&E into a hospital bed. They're waiting on trolleys for hours. Yeah.
And so why can't we see a doctor? Why is it that we have to make an appointment? We can't see you guys. When was the last time you made an appointment, Ava, and then saw the doctor the next day?
I haven't been to the doctor for about 6-7 years. So I'm probably
so
not
you're
the
healthy. What about you, Winston?
I've been to doctors, yeah.
It's a bad shape. We're in a bad shape.
4 weeks.
Well, can I just ask Ava to join my
Look,
list?
it's people like these
guys.
guys. Now, this guy's purporting to become an MP. Now, it's guys like this who've brought the whole system down. And
tell him.
You're now purporting to go and run the country in a constituency. You want to be in a constituency, but it's people like you, Labour. And you guys have so much to answer for. It was Labour who told you guys that you couldn't do no late hours. You couldn't come out to people on emergency calls. It was Labour. And 10 years ago, when we were screaming... Well, let me finish. 1 minute, please. Everybody had their say. Time for the chance to speak.
So you can
when you had your time...
Winston.
10 years ago, they were screaming about the beds, shortage of beds for old pensioners, right? They didn't have there was shortage of beds.
Winston,
I remember going to the hospital after a big fight for a retina operation. I was waiting in the corridor.
Right,
it's
Winston.
your fault.
Okay.
And Labour and all the rest of them. You want to run the country.
You can tell.
You want to run the country.
Winston. You could tell Winston was a former boxer. Will you stop it?
Yes, because he's had a lot of blows to the head.
Let's go to the phone lines.
I'm still in there, man.
Ava, let's go to the phone lines. Hello, you're calling Real Talk. What's your name, please? Hello?
Hello.
What's your name, please?
My name is Jim McNeil. Is it me you're talking to?
Yes, I am, Jim.
Okay,
what's your comment, please?
On a different topic, because I missed the first topic, which the question I really wanted to ask Winston. I don't know what his background is. My background is a Caribbean background. I'm 75 years of age. I would like to know what he wanted to gain from being a UKIP representative. But at the same time, you're on the NHS now, and I do support the NHS. And regardless of what people might say, it's the envy of every other country in the world, which I've had the pleasure of going and visiting.
Thank you, Jim. I really want to move away from UKIP. I really do.
Yes, I know you want to do, but
No, thank you, Jim. Just very quickly, if you keep getting power, I promise, Ava, you're coming back. If you keep getting power, will you sort out the NHS, yes or no?
Yes.
Right, Ava.
Can I just say, even though I haven't been to a doctor, I know lots of people who are doctors and they work extremely hard. I think it's quite... the way that it's being represented is that these people are not coping, but people are not talking about the amount of funds that they've had that are actually cut. So they're not meeting targets because they haven't got they're not able to do so because they don't have what they need. And what I'm going to say is also, people are not making... There's a direct correlation between the people who are winning the contracts off the NHS and the people who are Tory party funders. So why don't people speak about that?
Yes, we should.
They're giving contracts to their friends.
We should, but the problem is people are dying every day needlessly on trolleys, in corridors, waiting for ages. You know...
And the GPs are not working.
Well, the GPs are working.
They're not doing any overtime. It's all out now. No more call-out time. All brought in by Labour. It's a Labour policy.
Well, let Bob respond.
Come on. How are you going to fix it?
Well, if you let me get a word in edgeways,
yes, my man, you do.
Amongst most of the crap that's coming out of his mouth, there is some truth.
Talking, you're actually physically bringing the country down.
Let's apologise. Bob, please keep your language.
Okay.
Sorry, Winston, let him speak. Winston.
He is right. The Labour Party did sow the seeds of the NHS's destruction. This is the reason why our party has formed, because unfortunately they are colluding in converting it into the US system.
Right.
So Labour achieved three things in power. They established foundation trusts, which split up the hospital network. They burdened hospitals with PFI debt as a mechanism to bring them down one by one.
So what about the coalition government?
Well, they've carried on. So they introduced a massive legislation in 2012 which forced all hospitals to tender out contracts.
Okay. In a nutshell, Bob, are you a hard-working GP?
This is the
yes
hardest.
Or no?
Of course I am.
Do you work out of hours?
I don't work out of hours because it's been contracted out to private contractors.
It's all sorted now. Now you know why people, instead of going to their GPs, they're going down to A&E.
Right.
A&E can't cope.
Right, let's
they
go to
have neither the manpower nor the skills to cope.
Thank you.
So why don't these guys come out their house?
Thank you, Winston. Thank you. Let's go to the phones, please. Hello, Gillian. Julie?
Hello.
Hello, Julie. Thanks for calling. I believe you are the founder of Cure the NHS. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What is, I don't want to go into a big sort of diatribe. I hope you don't mind. We're running out of time. How can the NHS problem be solved? How can you cure it?
I really don't know, but I think we're having a real distraction about this privatisation debate, when really we should be focusing on patient safety. That's the problem. We need to keep, the focus on patient safety.
OK, so how can we make patients safer? And why is the NHS in such a bad state now?
Well, I think that we've got a rise of people using the system. I think we just haven't caught up with what the increase in the need for the NHS. I think it's going to take a brave party that's going to say, look, we can't afford what we've got.
OK,
we need to pay more for it.
But Bob...
I think because we get lost in the politics, really what we need to do is take the NHS out of politics completely.
But it can't be, can it?
No.
It can't be.
Well, exactly. But that would be the solution, because this is what we get all the time.
Well, Julie, Bob was saying he would love to work out of hours, wouldn't you, Bob? Or would you?
Well,
Let's be honest.
I didn't quite say that, because I think I work enough hours during the day, to be honest. To have me working out of hours as well does not improve patient safety. But Julie is fundamentally wrong. By privatisation, if you divert more money away from the front line, that does not do patient safety any good whatsoever.
Well,
we recently had Musgrove Park Hospital. A private contract went out for eye surgery. They had a 50% complication rate. Yeah, this compares to normal for the NHS, which is a 2% complication rate.
Tell her quickly why she's wrong.
Well, she's wrong because privatisation diverts money away from the front line. The politicians who are pushing privatisation often have financial interests in privatising the NHS, and they want nobody to talk about privatisation.
Julie, quick response.
I think the majority of the public, their priority is patient safety, and I think the one thing that has happened is we've had an increase in frontline staff. We've increased nurses. We've now got a limit. Mid-staff was absolutely starved of staff, and so was the other 14 hospitals under the Keogh review. We've had more nurses on our wards.
Julie, but
we need to concentrate more on patient safety and not be distracted distracted by this privatisation.
Julie, yes, I've got to say, Julie, all the statistics aren't proving what you're saying. There is a lack of staff. There's a big lack of staff. GPs are leaving the industry by their droves. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Julie. Emily has contacted the show. Criticise the NHS is in my family is probably the biggest taboo possible. You just don't. Johnny says the NHS is a lot like Lionel Messi. It looks horrible, but it gets the job done.
Gets the job done.
Messi's not horrible, is he? Lee Jasper said the coalition government are privatising the NHS, profiteering on pain. Once it's gone, it's gone. So Lee agreeing with you. And a lot of people agreeing with Ava. Danny says the NHS is vital. Keep knocking it, but you'll miss it if it goes. Luke says, what nurses, doctors, health workers do is undeniable. They are our nation's backbone. So, concluding to this, do you think the NHS has got a future kept in a public sector?
The NHS has a future if it's... as far as privatising the NHS is concerned, that's the wrong road to go down. The NHS is called the NHS, and that's exactly what it should be, a national health service, you know?
I think it's also deceitful to say that UKIP would help save the NHS when today Nigel Farage, I'm going to say it because I say anything, I might as well just say
Let
it.
her speak.
Said that he wants to send back doctors who speak with foreign accents. I didn't agree to anything.
We agreed.
But speak with foreign accents who can't speak fluent English.
Well, there's a lot of people complaining about it.
Well, actually, Winston, somebody from UKIP here is here looking after you and actually ran over to you and told you to speak fluently. So I wonder if you would be expelled from the country in that. No, it was your handler that said it.
It's the end of the world.
Right.
You know, people are complaining about that. Let's get frank with this now. People are uneasy when they go in the hospital for an operation and the person can't speak English. I'd be infuriated. I would be infuriated.
Hold on, Winston, let's get this.
Come on now.
No,
I'm ill and you go in the hospital and someone can't speak a word of English. There's nothing more infuriating.
It
happens.
Bob, can I bring you in here?
Yeah.
I mean, because again, we're going back to the sort of basic arguments of if somebody can't speak English and they're treating you, Winston, that's such a dangerous thing to say.
Come on.
No, because no one's going to be employed in the NHS if they cannot speak any English. That's ridiculous.
The facts are, without immigrants working as nurses, doctors...
Nobody's saying that.
Right?
Nobody's saying that. They must just speak English.
They don't have perfect English, but without them, the service would collapse. This is another distraction to fuel hatred of immigrants and make immigrants the problem for everything.
Objection.
So immigrants are the problem for using the NHS. Objection. Immigrants are the problem for providing the service for the NHS.
Okay. Can I just say there seems to be a real fundamental thing that's running through this programme. You totally are obsessed with Nigel Farage.
I'm obsessed with UKIP because that is the party that is providing the real policies for real people in real times that we're living in now. And the times that we're living in now are unprecedented. This country is almost morally bankrupt.
Right, but you've got to allow other people to have their opinions. Why shouldn't we, Ava and Bob, very concluding, why shouldn't we vote for UKIP? Winston's put the table as to why we should. He set out his stall. Why shouldn't we vote for UKIP?
We shouldn't vote for UKIP because they're stoking up fears. They're making life hard for people of colour in this country. They're making life hard for immigrants in this country. They are making life hard for immigrants in this country. They are saying things that absolutely are not true. And they're just stoking up people's fears. And you keep talking about Nigel Farage, calling him the governor. You've referred to him as being like Jesus. I mean, it's like you're blinded or something. Right. The only thing he's got in common with Jesus, he won't die.
Right, OK, right. Obviously, no offence to anybody on that with those comments.
People should not vote UKIP because they are funded by extremely wealthy people. They're more Tory than the Tories. They prey on people's fears and prejudices to get elected. They have nothing. Their policies change from day to day, depending on which way the wind's blowing. They haven't got a clue about anything.
Right, thank you. We have set out and we've heard both arguments. It's up to you. Will you be putting
what about me?
No, you've made your argument. Winston, you've made your argument. Right. Winston. It's up to you to decide whether you'll be putting your cross. You decide whether you'll be putting your cross next to UK. We've got a phone caller. Did you say? Quickly, we need to quickly hear from the public. Can I have your name, please?
My name is Sarah.
OK, can I have your opinion, please?
Yeah, I'm just wondering why we have to listen to Winston in the first place. He's not giving people the opportunity to speak, and I'm interested in what the other members of the panel have to say.
But they've just spoken. I kept quiet. I was kept out of it.
I think it's very disrespectful, and it's a true reflection of his party, to be honest.
Exactly.
Oh, come on.
Opinion. That's her opinion. That's her opinion. Thank you very much for calling Real Talk. And to be honest, Winston, I've known you for years as a boxer. Before you went into politics. UKIP isn't the first party you've stood for. You've stood for a lot of parties.
No, I've stood for 2 parties in my life.
Yeah.
But I never joined Labour.
OK, well, but you're happy with UKIP, but you have to have other people to have their opinions. The NHA, if people are interested in the NHA, why should they vote for you as an independent?
Well, we're not standing all over the country. We're standing in certain places where we have candidates. I think there's 12 at the last count. They should vote for us because we need to make a point about what's really going on to the NHS. They're covertly being privatised by all mainstream parties, and they're desperate not to let the cat out of the bag. OK. Well,
let's lighten the mood a bit, because it is the new year, 2015. We are going to look at the papers, but before we look at them, let's lighten the load, because it has been very confrontational. It's a bit like the House of Commons in here, I tell you. Put Prime Minister's questions. This time next year, you will be what? Let's do a few New Year's resolutions so we can play this show back at the end of the year. This time next year, Bob, you will be what?
I will try... Well, in the last couple of years, I've spent a lot of time gelling up on what's happening to the NHS, and I've neglected my family and my children. So I'm going to try and spend a bit more time, protected time with the children.
Ava?
I will hopefully be a published author and the mother of an England rugby player. He's on his way.
Oh, fantastic. This time next year, Winston McKenzie?
This time next year, I'll be a UKIP candidate for the Mayor of London.
Right.
That is my ambition.
OK,
to
well,
run London. You've heard it here first.
Wonderful. OK, well, you heard it here first. Winston McKenzie is going to run for London Mayor. Right, let's hear what you had...
Choose me first.
Let's hear what you had to say when we put the question to you. This time next year, you're going to be what?
This time next year, I'll be living here. I love London and I'll be happy in an amazing job. And fit.
My New Year's resolution this year is to start saying no to people.
The New Year resolution is not to give up smoking because no one likes a quitter.
This time next year, what I'm going to carry on doing is continuing to cycle to work, go to outside gym, go to indoor gym, try to keep active at least 5 to 6 days a week.
This time next year, I'll be healthier, fitter and richer. Because it's a cliche, that's what 45-year-old men do, and that's what I've done.
This time next year, I'd really like to have basic Spanish.
By this time next year, I would have given up fizzy drinks.
This time next year, I would like to open my own company.
This time next year, I want to be more successful.
By this time next year, I'll have read 15 books.
By this time next year, I've changed my diet, expect to be more healthy. I've got little ones I want to be around when they're growing up, so just changed my diet.
Wonderful, very encouraging. Majority of them were health related. So you heard it here first. Winston McKenzie is going to run for London Mayor, and I can tell you, Lord help his contenders. He's of opposition.
You've got to choose me first. You've got to choose me first.
Ava, I hope you do get that book published, and I hope you do spend more time with your family. Have we got time to quickly look at the polls or the? Oh, brilliant. We can have a look at the papers. We've got a few quick paper stories to tell you about. You've each got a paper story that caught your eye. Let's start with you, Bobby. Bob Gill.
Yeah, I thought sort of been given the Prince Andrew story. Clearly very controversial.
Yes.
I think what I'm afraid this might turn into is a media circus, and this might again dominate the news agenda. My worry is that more serious and up-to-date and current matters don't get covered, although this deserves to be fully investigated. But I think we should reserve judgment and focus on problems, particularly in this country, that need addressing.
OK, yes, it doesn't look like it's going to go away, does it? And that was a lawyer also embroiled in that those controversies, those allegations that they had underage. Sort of liaisons with a young girl. Ava, what was your newspaper story?
I was given this story about the plain tale the latest missing flight has been found. Apparently only 40 bodies have been recovered so far, but the authorities believe that many of the passengers may still be strapped inside the main body of the plane. As someone who's really scared of flying anyway, all these stories are actually freaking me out. I think in this day and age, with the technology that we have, it's kind of alarming that massive planes are going missing.
Absolutely.
So I hope, for the sake of the families, that they get some peace and they can find their relatives.
Okay, yeah, it's absolutely awful. And hopefully when they do recover the black box, we'll find out exactly what happened to that plane. And Winston, the Ebola story...
I was going to go on about this Ebola because it is very worrying and important that they get it under control.
Well,
and,
there's the nurse is still critical and looks like she's going to be critical for some time.
Yeah, it does. And I'm just hoping that they get it under control. But more intriguing is this knife crime that's still spreading through our country like a virus. And successive governments, including Boris Johnson, Ken Livingstone, all those mayors, have all came with the promise that they're going to solve it. And nothing has ever happened about it. And it's very worrying now. And it always has been and still remains one of the biggest drawbacks in society today, particularly in London. Just last night, just in Homerton, a young boy has lost his life. Yet another one has gone down. And one has to ask oneself a question, when are the governments going to put out policies or initiatives with which to save young lives? When is it ever going to happen?
Well, you're running for London Mayor, so perhaps it's something which potentially you need to address.
I've got all the answers. Don't worry about that.
OK.
All here. I've got all the answers.
And what would you do?
I can't give you that answer just now, Trish. I've got it all worked out. I've had specific opportunities to go into schools, colleges, and create initiatives, and that's what I'm all about.
Okay.
It's all documented.
OK, thank you very much, Winston. But we're very quickly...
And Boris Johnson owes me one. This guy took my policies when he became the man.
OK, right, thank you. Boris is not here to...
he owes me one. I'm going to get him in the ring. Me and Boris.
Right, lovely. That would be a sight I'd pay good money to watch. But
all my policies,
thank you, Winston. But can I just say, we've had the picture there of Pauline Cafferty, the British nurse who's fighting against Ebola. It seems that she will be critical for some time, her family have been told. She's from Glasgow and she's being treated at London's Royal Free Hospital. Such an awful... I mean, obviously, as a GP, it's scary. Should we be... I don't want to be panic-mongering at all, Dr Bob Gill, but could it affect us? Could we see an outbreak here in the UK?
From my understanding, Ebola is quite hard to catch and it's direct transfer of bodily fluids. So, unfortunately, this nurse must have got contaminated in some way, and I understand there's an investigation going on to find out how their sort of hygiene regime was breached. But until we know that information, it's hard to tell. But it's very difficult to have an outbreak in this country because we don't live in the poor conditions that, unfortunately, people in Africa live in. Very close proximity, not much access to hygiene and clean water and all the rest.
In some parts of Africa.
Yeah.
Trish, can I just say
where
one
the
thing?
outbreak is.
No.
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing, Trish?
We haven't got time. We haven't got time. We haven't got time. We will have to... That's enough for today. Winston McKenzie, as you can see. Thank you, Winston.
Rip off.
Thank you. Right, thank you, Winston. It's been lovely. Well, I wouldn't say lovely. It's been emotional having some of our panellists in again. Here's our quick poll before we go. We asked, sorry, Bob, can I just quickly... Are you happy with the level of service the NHS provide in your local area? And as you can see there, the figures are overwhelmingly yes. So though you may knock the NHS, we all need it. Thank you, Winston McKenzie. Thank you, Ava Vidal. Thank you very much. I wish you was courteous to Ava. I think you need to kiss her hand.
No, please.
Thank you. And Dr Bob Gill. We're in Real Talk today. I hope you keep emailing us. We do read every single email. Thank you for watching Real Talk. I'll calm him down. I might throw this bottle of this water over him.